Jake Miller leaned against the cold metal wall of the holding cell. His broad shoulders barely fit in the narrow space, but he looked comfortable. The gravity here felt light, like he was walking on the moon. He could jump twice as high as normal, if he wanted to. Around him, other prisoners watched with wide eyes. They were all different kinds of aliens. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed in the dark. They whispered to each other, pointing at Jake with shaking fingers. "Look, at that thing," clicked a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis. Its name was Crix, and its whole body trembled as it spoke. "That's a human. A Deathworlder. A snake-like alien called a Voss wrapped itself into a tighter coil. They breathe poison," it hissed. "Their air would kill us in seconds." "I heard. They have bones inside their bodies," chirped a small bird-like creature covered in bright blue feathers. "Can you imagine, walking around with a skeleton inside you?" Jake heard everything they said. The translator chip behind his ear turned their strange languages into English. He didn't mind their fear. He was used to it by now. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 10 years, and most aliens still found them terrifying. He stretched his arms above his head, making his joints pop. Several aliens jumped back at the sound. Jake almost laughed but kept his face neutral. No need to scare them more than necessary. The door to the holding area slid open with a hiss. A tall blue figure walked in. This was a Zardian, one of the species that ran this part of space. The Zardian stood 8 feet tall with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His skin looked like it was made of sapphire. "I am Zorak," the blue alien announced. "I am the master of this arena." He looked around at all the prisoners, but his 4 eyes kept coming back to Jake. "You will all fight for the entertainment of the Zardian Empire. Most of you will die." The other prisoners made sounds of fear. Some cried, others prayed to their gods. Jake just nodded. "Human," Zorak said, walking closer to Jake. "You are scheduled to fight today, against our champion." "Okay," Jake said simply. Zorak's eyes narrowed. He had expected begging, crying, or at least some sign of fear. "Do you understand? You will face Graktor. He has killed over 100 opponents. No one has lasted more than 5 minutes against him." Jake shrugged. "Sounds like fun." The arena master stared at him. "You are not afraid?" "Not really," Jake replied. He had been captured 3 days ago when his exploration ship was attacked by pirates. They sold him to the arena. It wasn't ideal, but he'd been in worse situations. Back home we have a saying, "Don't worry about things you can't control." "You cannot control whether you live or die?" Zorak asked, confused. "I can control how I fight," Jake said. "That's enough for me." Zorak shook his head. "Humans are insane," he muttered as he walked away. When the arena master left, the other prisoners moved even further away from Jake. Only one stayed close, a small, furry creature with 6 legs and large, dark eyes. "Are you really not scared?" it asked in a tiny voice. Jake smiled at the little alien. "What's your name?" "Pip," it squeaked. "I'm a fuzzle. We're not fighters. I don't know why they brought me here." "Well, Pip," Jake said, sitting down so he was closer to the fuzzle's eye level. "I'm not scared because this isn't my first dangerous situation. Humans come from a pretty rough planet." "Earth is a death world," Pip whispered. "Everyone knows that." Jake nodded. "True. We have earthquakes, hurricanes, predators that hunt in packs, tiny organisms that can kill us if they get inside our bodies. Even our own sun tries to burn us if we stay outside too long." Pip's eyes grew even wider. "And you survived all that?" "Not just survived," Jake said with a grin. "We thrived. We became the top predators. Then we went to space." He patted Pip gently on the head. "Don't worry, little friend, things will work out." A loud bell rang through the holding area. Guards appeared at the door. "Human," one shouted. "Time for your match." Jake stood up and stretched one more time. "Well, here we go. Just a warm-up, really." As the guards led him away, he heard Pip whisper to the others, I think that human might actually win." The arena was huge. Jake had seen football stadiums on Earth, but this was 10 times bigger. Seats rose up in circles, filled with thousands of aliens. They cheered and roared as Jake walked onto the sandy floor. The sun here was orange, making everything look like it was sunset. The air smelled like copper and something sweet Jake couldn't identify. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs. The oxygen level was a bit low, but nothing he couldn't handle. A voice boomed across the arena, speaking in multiple languages at once. Jake's translator picked up the announcer's words. "Citizens of the Zardian Empire, today we witness a special match. A human captured from the Deathworld Earth faces our undefeated champion." The crowd went wild. Some cheered, others booed. Many just stared at Jake like he was some kind of exotic animal. Jake stood in the center of the arena, arms loose at his sides. He wore simple gray pants and no shirt. The arena rules said first-time fighters couldn't have weapons or armor. That was fine with him. The ground shook. Jake felt it before he saw the source. Massive gates on the opposite side of the arena opened, and out walked the biggest living thing Jake had ever seen. Gractor was 12 feet of pure muscle. His skin was thick and gray, like a rhino's hide. 4 massive arms sprouted from his torso, each one as thick as Jake's entire body. The champion's head was small compared to his body, with 6 red eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Each of Gractor's hands held a different weapon. The upper right gripped a sword that glowed blue with energy. The upper left held a whip that crackled with electricity. The lower right carried a hammer that seemed to bend the air around it. The lower left had a strange gun-like device. "So this is the famous human." Gractor's voice rumbled like thunder. He spoke in Galactic Standard, a trade language most species learned. "You are smaller than I expected." Jake tilted his head, studying his opponent. "Size isn't everything." "Big guy." The crowd laughed. They thought Jake was making a joke before he died. "I am Gractor, champion of the arena," the giant announced. "I have never been defeated. I have killed warriors from 100 worlds. You will be number 101. "Jake Miller," he replied simply. "Nice to meet you." This seemed to confuse Gractor. He frowned, all 6 eyes blinking at different times. "You show no fear. Why?" "Should I?" Jake asked. He was doing what humans did best, adapting. His eyes tracked every movement Gractor made, noting how the alien's weight shifted, which joints seemed stiff, where the armor was thinnest. "You face certain death," Gractor growled. "We'll see," Jake said with a small smile. A horn blasted through the arena. The match had begun. Gractor charged immediately. For something so large, he moved fast. The ground shook with each step. His plasma sword swung down toward Jake's head. Jake waited until the last possible second, then stepped aside. The blade hit the sand where he had been standing, sending up a spray of superheated particles. The crowd gasped. No one had ever dodged Gractor's first attack. The champion spun, bringing his electric whip around in a wide arc. Jake ducked under it, feeling the electricity make his hair stand up. He was already moving, circling to Gractor's left side. The gravity hammer came down next. Jake rolled forward, passing under Gractor's arm. As he came up, he tapped the back of the champion's knee. It wasn't a hard hit, just enough to test the joint's flexibility. Gractor stumbled slightly, more from surprise than pain. "Impossible," the champion roared. He fired his neural disruptor, a weapon designed to scramble a being's nervous system. Jake had already moved. He recognized the weapon type from his military training. Neural disruptors needed direct hits to work, and they had a slight delay between trigger pull and firing. "Stand still," Gractor bellowed, swinging all 4 weapons wildly. Jake kept moving, always just out of reach. His breathing was steady, his movements efficient. This was basic combat training for humans. Conserve energy, make your opponent waste theirs. In the stands, aliens watched in shock. They had expected to see a quick execution. Instead, they were watching something none of them had ever seen before. Someone making their champion look slow. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Jake hadn't attacked once. He just kept moving, dodging every swing, every blast, every strike. His feet left patterns in the sand as he danced around the increasingly frustrated champion. Graktor's breathing grew, heavy. Sweat, or whatever his species produced, dripped from his gray skin. His movements became slower, less precise. The weapons in his four hands felt heavier with each swing. "Fight me!" Graktor roared, his voice cracking with anger and exhaustion. "I am fighting," Jake replied calmly, sidestepping another hammer strike. "Just not the way you expected." Up, in the VIP section, Ambassador Kira Thompson gripped her seat. She had arrived at the arena an hour ago trying to negotiate for Jake's release. Now she watched as her fellow human demonstrated exactly why Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. "Your people are insane," whispered Ambassador Thrix, her Xylorian counterpart. His tentacles curled and uncurled nervously. "Not insane," Kira corrected. "Just different. We evolved as persistence hunters. We can run for hours, days even. Most prey on Earth was faster than us, so we learned to outlast them." On the arena floor, Jake continued his patient strategy. He noticed Graktor favoring his left leg now. The champion's lower right arm shook slightly when lifting the gravity hammer. These were the signs Jake had been waiting for. "You coward," Graktor panted. "Stand and fight." Jake's eyes narrowed. "All right." For the first time, Jake moved forward instead of away. His speed shocked everyone watching. One moment he was 10 feet from Graktor, the next he was inside the champion's guard. Jake's fist struck the inside of Graktor's upper right elbow. The joint bent backward with a crack. The plasma sword fell from suddenly numb fingers. Before Graktor could react, Jake grabbed the falling sword and used its handle to strike a nerve cluster in the champion's lower left arm. The neural disruptor clattered to the ground. The crowd fell silent. They had never seen anyone disarm their champion, let alone do it barehanded. Graktor swung his remaining weapons wildly. Jake ducked under the whip and drove his shoulder into the champion's knee, the same one he had tested earlier. The joint buckled. As Graktor stumbled, Jake swept his other leg. The massive alien crashed to the ground like a falling tree. The impact shook the entire arena. Jake stepped back, still holding the plasma sword. He didn't activate it. He just held it casually, like it was a stick he'd found on a walk. Graktor tried to rise but fell back. His chest heaved as he struggled for breath. Two of his arms hung useless at his sides. "How?" the champion gasped. "How did you know where to strike?" Jake shrugged. "Pattern recognition. Every species has weak points. You protect yours well, but everyone has habits. You always drop your upper right shoulder before swinging the HFY sword. You shift your weight to the left before using the hammer. Small things, but they add up. But the speed, the endurance. Earth has higher gravity than here," Jake explained. "Our atmosphere has less oxygen. We evolved to hunt by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This?" He gestured around the arena. "This was just a light workout." The crowd began to murmur. The translator spread Jake's words across dozens of languages. Disbelief turned to understanding, then to fear. Zorak appeared at the arena entrance, his blue skin pale with shock. He had never seen his champion defeated, let alone so completely. "Kill me," Graktor said, looking up at Jake. "It is the warrior's way." Jake shook his head. "No need. You fought well. But maybe now your people will understand. Humans don't need to kill to prove our point." He tossed the plasma sword aside and offered his hand to Graktor. After a moment of hesitation, the champion took it with his one working arm. Jake helped him to his feet. The crowd exploded. Some cheered, others booed. Many simply stared in confusion. In their culture, mercy was weakness. But Jake had just shown strength through restraint. "This human is mad," Zorak muttered. "No," Ambassador Thrix replied, watching carefully. "He's teaching us something. The question is, are we smart enough to learn?" Zorak stormed into the arena, his four eyes blazing with anger. His blue skin had turned almost purple with rage. Behind him, 6 guards followed, their weapons aimed at Jake. "This is impossible," Zorak shouted. His voice echoed across the suddenly quiet arena. You cheated. You must have cheated. Jake raised his hands slowly, showing he wasn't a threat. No cheating, just human biology and training. No species can defeat Graktor, Zorak insisted. He is the perfect warrior, Graktor, still leaning on Jake for support, spoke up. He did not cheat, Arena Master. The human fought with honor. He is better than me. These words shocked everyone. Champions never admitted defeat. They usually died before showing such humility. Jake looked at the crowd, then back at Zorak. He saw an opportunity. Want to test your theory about humans? Send your next 5 champions, all at once. The arena fell completely silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. No one had ever made such a challenge in the 1,000-year history of the arena. 5 champions, Zorak repeated, his voice barely a whisper. Against 1 fighter? That's right, Jake nodded. If I win, all human prisoners in your empire go free. If I lose, well... He shrugged. I won't be around to care. The crowd erupted. Aliens shouted in 100 different languages. Some called Jake crazy. Others demanded to see this impossible fight. Up in the VIP box, Ambassador Kira Thompson leaned forward. She understood what Jake was doing. This wasn't just about fighting, it was about making a statement to the entire galaxy. He's going to get himself killed, Ambassador Thrick said, his tentacles turning pale with worry. No, Kira smiled. He's going to change everything. Zorak's business instincts took over. This fight would be watched across the galaxy. The broadcast rights alone would make him rich beyond imagination. Very well, human, Zorak announced. 5 champions against 1. But know this, they will not show mercy like you did. Wouldn't want it any other way, Jake replied. Medical, drones arrived to take Graktor away. As they lifted him, the former champion grabbed Jake's arm. Human, Graktor said quietly. I have fought for 50 years. I have seen warriors from across the galaxy, but you are something different. What are you? Jake smiled. Just a guy from Earth doing his best. As Graktor was carried away, Jake turned to face the arena. The crowd had grown larger. News of his challenge spread quickly, and aliens from all over the city rushed to witness this historic event. Zorak returned to his viewing box to make arrangements. The 5 champions needed to be summoned. This would take time, but the anticipation would make the eventual fight even more profitable. Jake used the break to recover. He found a shaded area and sat down, controlling his breathing. The fight with Graktor had been easy, but 5 opponents would be different. He needed to be smart. A small drone flew down, carrying water. Jake was surprised to see Pip, the little fuzzle from the holding cell, riding on top of it. I convinced the guards to let me bring you this, Pip squeaked. Are you really going to fight 5 champions? Jake took the water gratefully. Thanks, Pip. And yes, I am. But why? You already won. You could ask for your freedom now. Because it's not just about me, Jake explained. There are other humans held prisoner, families separated, people enslaved. If I can free them all with one fight, I have to try. Pip's large eyes grew even wider. You would risk your life for strangers? They're not strangers. They're human like me. We look out for each other. This concept seemed to confuse Pip. In his culture, individuals fought only for themselves or their immediate family. Besides, Jake added with a grin, I'm curious to see what other fighters they have. Graktor was strong, but slow. Maybe the others will be more interesting. Across the arena, holographic displays activated. They showed images of the 5 champions being summoned. Each looked deadlier than the last. The crowd's excitement grew. They were about to witness something unprecedented. A single human against 5 of the galaxy's greatest warriors. Jake finished his water and stood up. He stretched his muscles and cleared his mind. The real challenge was about to begin. The gates opened again. 5 figures walked into the arena, each more unusual than the last. The crowd roared as the champions took their positions around Jake. First came Eryx, a scion from the mind-reading species. Her pale purple skin glowed softly, and her large head pulsed with visible veins. She floated a few inches off the ground, her mental powers keeping her aloft. Next was Mortak, a shapeshifter from the Morpher colonies. His body rippled like liquid metal, changing form every few seconds. One moment he had claws, the next tentacles, then wings. The third champion was Zeke 701, a Techrite warrior. Half machine, half organic, his body bristled with weapons. Red laser sights danced across the arena as his targeting systems activated. Fourth came Zara, a Toxian assassin. Her green scales dripped with poison and her forked tongue tasted the air. Every step she took left smoking footprints in the sand. Last was Kronos, a time manipulator from the Chronarch Empire. His body seemed to flicker, existing in multiple moments at once. Sometimes he appeared young, sometimes old, sometimes both. Jake stood in the center, turning slowly to keep all five in view. His heart rate remained steady. His military training kicked in, analyzing each opponent. "Begin!" Zorak's voice boomed. Eryx struck first. A wave of mental energy slammed toward Jake's mind. But humans had something most species didn't, a natural resistance to telepathy. Earth's predators had forced humans to develop mental shields over millions of years. Jake felt the attack like a gentle push and shrugged it off. Rix's eyes widened in shock. Mortak charged next, his body shifting into a massive bear-like form. Jake waited, then stepped aside at the last second. As Mortak passed, Jake grabbed what looked like a shoulder and used the creature's momentum to flip him into Zeke 701. The cyborg and shapeshifter crashed together in a tangle of metal and flesh. Zara spat venom, a stream of green liquid that could melt steel. Jake had already moved, but not away. He moved toward her. The Toxian didn't expect this. Most opponents fled from her poison. Jake got inside her range where she couldn't spit effectively. A quick strike to her neck disrupted her venom glands temporarily. Kronos tried to speed up time around himself, moving faster than the eye could follow. But Jake had noticed something. The time manipulator left faint afterimages. By watching these shadows, Jake could predict where Kronos would appear. When Kronos materialized behind him, Jake was already spinning with an elbow strike that caught the time manipulator in the chest. The crowd watched in stunned silence. 30 seconds had passed and all five champions were struggling. Eryx tried another mental assault. This time Jake pretended to stumble, drawing Mortak and Zeke 701 toward him. At the last moment, he dropped flat. The two champions collided again, and Eryx's mental blast hit them instead of Jake. Mortak shifted into a snake form, trying to wrap around Jake. But Jake had wrestled pythons during his survival training on Earth. He found the weak points in the coils and broke free. Zeke 701's weapons fired rapidly, but Jake used the other champions as shields. The cyborg couldn't get a clear shot without hitting his allies. Zara recovered and tried a new tactic. She secreted poison through her skin, making herself untouchable. Jake responded by throwing sand in her eyes, then sweeping her legs when she was blinded. Kronos slowed time around Jake, trying to trap him. But Jake had studied the footage of previous matches during his time in the holding cell. He knew Kronos could only affect small areas. Jake simply stepped out of the time bubble. 2 minutes into the fight, all five champions were showing signs of fatigue and frustration. Jake hadn't even broken a sweat. "Impossible," Zorak muttered from his box. "No single being can fight like this." "He's not fighting," Ambassador Kira explained to those around her. "He's problem-solving. Each champion is just a puzzle to him." The crowd began to realize they weren't watching a battle. They were watching a demonstration. Jake was showing the galaxy what humans were capable of. The five champions regrouped, realizing they needed to work together. They formed a circle around Jake, each taking a different angle of attack. This was exactly what Jake wanted. Eryx sent a mental command to coordinate their assault. Jake felt it brush against his mind and smiled. He understood their plan now. Zeke 701 fired his missiles first. Jake ran toward Mortak, who had shaped himself into a wall to block escape. At the last second, Jake jumped. The missiles hit Mortak instead, and Jake used the explosion's force to flip over the shapeshifter. Zara sprayed venom in a wide arc. Jake grabbed Kronos, who was trying to slow time, and spun him into the poison spray. The time manipulator's powers went haywire as the venom affected his concentration. Time bubbles popped randomly around the arena. The crowd gasped as they saw glimpses of the past and future. Some saw themselves arriving at the arena. Others saw themselves leaving. A few even saw what they had for breakfast yesterday. Jake used the chaos to his advantage. He moved through the time distortions like they were doors, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Urix tried to track his mind, but the time bubbles scrambled her telepathy. She kept getting thoughts from Jake's, past and future instead of his present. He's everywhere, she screamed in frustration. Mortak shifted into a net-like form trying to catch Jake. But Jake had noticed the shapeshifter always kept his core in the same place, no matter what form he took. A precise strike to that spot made Mortak lose control of his shape. The shapeshifter collapsed into a puddle, struggling to reform. Zeke 701 activated his close combat protocols. Blades extended from his arms and his servos whined as he moved at maximum speed. Jake met him head-on, using a technique he learned from studying praying mantises on Earth. He redirected the cyborg's strikes, making him cut his own hydraulic lines. Oil sprayed everywhere, making the sand slippery. Azara slipped in the oil, her poison mixing with it to create toxic fumes. Jake held his breath and kept moving. Humans could go without air longer than most species. Kronos tried to age Jake rapidly, focusing his power to turn the human to dust. But Jake had noticed the time manipulator's weakness. He couldn't affect living things directly, only the time around them. Jake threw sand into the air. As Kronos aged it to dust, Jake used the cloud as cover to get close. A simple push sent Kronos stumbling into one of his own time bubbles, trapping him in a loop. 4 minutes had passed. 4 champions were down. Only Urix remained standing. The Scion gathered all her mental power for one massive attack. The air crackled with psychic energy. Spectators in the front rows passed out from the pressure. Jake stood still, letting her build up the attack. He knew something about psychic powers that most species didn't. They required belief to work. The attacker had to believe they would succeed. As Urix released her mental blast, Jake did something unexpected. He laughed. The sound broke Urix's concentration. Her attack scattered harmlessly. In that moment of confusion, Jake moved. He didn't strike her body. He struck her confidence. "Your powers don't work on humans," he said calmly. "We evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. Our minds learned to ignore fear, doubt, and psychic manipulation. You're not fighting my body. You're fighting millions of years of evolution." Urix fell to her knees, mentally exhausted. The fight was over. Jake stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by 5 defeated champions. His breathing was slightly elevated, but he looked like he could keep fighting for hours. The crowd was silent. Then someone started clapping. It was Graktor, watching from the medical bay. Others joined in. Soon the entire arena shook with applause. Zorak stared in disbelief. In 5 minutes, one human had defeated the best fighters in the galaxy. And he had done it without killing anyone. "Now," Jake called out, his voice carrying across the arena. "About those human prisoners." Zorak descended from his viewing box, his blue skin now pale with shock. He carried a data pad and several official-looking documents. His 4 eyes couldn't stay still, darting between Jake and the fallen champions. "The agreement," Zorak said, his voice shaking. "All human prisoners in the Zardian Empire will be freed." He held out the datapad with trembling hands. Jake took it and read carefully. Humans had learned to check alien contracts thoroughly. Everything looked correct. He pressed his thumb to the scanner, making it official. "How many humans are we talking about?" Jake asked. 47, Zorak answered. "They will be released within the hour and provided transport to human space." Jake nodded. "Good," Now, one more thing. Zorak's eyes widened. More? But we had an agreement. This is different, Jake said. He pointed to the medical bay where injured fighters received treatment. I want to help treat your champions. They fought well. They deserve proper care. This request stunned everyone. In the arena's history, victors never helped the defeated. It wasn't done. You want to help them? Zorak asked, confused. Of course, Jake replied. On Earth, we have a saying, a good fighter respects his opponents. Besides, I didn't hurt them badly. Mostly just pressure points and joint locks. They'll recover quickly with the right treatment. The crowd murmured. This human kept surprising them. Medical staff brought the champions to the arena floor. Jake went to each one, explaining their injuries and suggesting treatments. He showed the medics which nerves he had struck and how to restore proper function. Urix, the scion, watched him with curiosity. Why do you help us? We tried to kill you. No, you tried to defeat me. Jake corrected. There's a difference. You fought with honor. That deserves respect. When he reached Kronos, still stuck in his time loop, Jake carefully disrupted the bubble. The time manipulator gasped as he returned to normal time flow. How did you know how to free me? Kronos asked. Jake shrugged. Basic physics. Time loops need stable energy. Disrupt the energy, break the loop. We learned about this stuff in high school on Earth. This casual mention of human education shocked the aliens more than the fighting had. If human children learned such advanced concepts, what else did they know? As Jake finished helping the champions, Ambassador Kira Thompson made her way to the arena floor. She had been busy on her communicator, spreading news of Jake's victory across diplomatic channels. Well done, she said quietly. You've changed everything today. Just did what needed doing, Jake replied. Zorak approached again, this time with a different attitude. The fear remained, but now mixed with respect. Human, Jake Miller, I have a proposition. I'm listening. Stay. Become a trainer here. Teach our fighters. I will pay whatever you ask. Jake shook his head. Thanks, but no. I need to get back to my ship, my crew. But I'll make you a different offer. What offer? Open diplomatic relations with Earth. Real ones, not just trade agreements. Let our people visit freely. Learn from each other. You've seen what one human can do. Imagine what we could achieve as friends. The arena had gone quiet again. Everyone listened to this unexpected turn. Zorak considered for a long moment. You defeated our champions and now offer friendship? That's the human way, Jake smiled. We're dangerous enemies but loyal friends. Your choice which one you want us to be. Before Zorak could answer, a commotion started near the entrance. 47 humans freed from various prisons entered the arena. They had heard about Jake's victory and came to see their rescuer. Among them was Kate Brooks, a botanist captured while studying alien plants. She ran forward and hugged Jake. You did it, she cried. You saved us all. Other humans gathered around, shaking Jake's hand, patting his back. The aliens watched this display of human emotion with fascination. Pip, the little fuzzle, pushed through the crowd. Jake, you won! Jake lifted the small creature onto his shoulder. We won, Pip. All of us. 3 days later, Jake stood on the bridge of the rescue ship Horizon. The freed humans were all aboard, heading back to Earth space. Through the view screen, he could see the Zardian homeworld growing smaller behind them. A message came through from the planet. It was Zorak, now officially appointed as the Zardian ambassador to Earth. Jake Miller, Zorak's image appeared on screen. I wanted to inform you that your statue is complete. My statue? Jake asked, surprised. Yes. We have placed it in the center of the arena. It shows you standing peacefully, hand extended in friendship. The inscription reads, Jake Miller, who called our greatest challenge just a warm-up. Jake laughed. I hope you made me look good. We tried to capture your spirit, Zorak replied. The spirit that taught us strength can exist with mercy. After the call ended, Captain Lisa Chen approached Jake. You've started something big, she said. The entire galaxy is talking about what happened in that arena. Good talk or bad talk? Jake asked. Both. Some species are terrified, others are curious. Many want to open relations with Earth now. You've shown them we're more than just warriors from a death world. Jake nodded, looking at the stars. That was the point. Fear keeps people apart. Understanding brings them together. Pip scurried across the bridge. The little fuzzle had refused to leave Jake's side and was coming to Earth as an official cultural exchange student. Jake! Jake! Pip squeaked. Look what I can do. The small creature attempted a human-style punch, nearly falling. Over. Very good, Jake smiled. But remember what I taught you? Fighting is the last option, not the first. Over the next months, everything changed. The video of Jake's arena fight became the most watched broadcast in galactic history. Military academies across known space added it to their curriculum. Diplomats studied it to understand human psychology. Species that had avoided Earth now sent ambassadors. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges began. The Galactic Council upgraded Earth's status from quarantined Deathworld to allied member planet. Jake returned to his original mission, exploration. But now, when his ship entered new systems, he was greeted with respect rather than fear. Sometimes awe, occasionally wariness, but always respect. A year later, Jake received a message from Galactor. The former champion had opened a training school, teaching Jake's philosophy of strength through restraint. His students came from dozens of species. You changed my life, Galactor's message said. I used to think power meant destruction. You showed me it means control. Thank you. Similar messages came from the other champions. Erix developed new telepathic techniques based on human mental patterns. Kronos studied Earth's physics textbooks. Mortak learned about Earth's mimicry animals. Zara created non-lethal poison applications. Zeke 701 redesigned his systems for defense rather than attack. The ripples spread further. Pirates became less bold, knowing humans might be on any ship. Slavers abandoned their trade, fearing human retribution. Peaceful species felt safer, knowing humans would defend them. 5 years after the arena fight, Jake returned to the Zardian homeworld for a ceremony. The arena had been converted into a diplomatic center. Where blood once flowed, now ideas were exchanged. Jake stood before his statue, surrounded by friends from many species. Pip, now an adult fuzzle and Earth's first alien college graduate, stood proudly beside him. Do you regret what happened? Ambassador Kira asked him. Jake shook his head. No regrets? Sometimes you have to show your strength to prove you don't. Need to use it. A young Zardian approached nervously. Mr. Miller, could you sign my training manual? Jake smiled and signed the book. Its title read, The Human Way, Strength Through Understanding. As the sun set on the former arena, Jake realized his casual comment had become truth. That fight really had been just a warm-up. The real challenge, bringing the galaxy together, had only begun, and humans were ready for it.